Hi, it's Carrie from the Writer's Box, and I am excited to talk to you today about story planning. So, in our Writer's Box this month, we have actually a ghost story planning guide and a ghost story map. And we talk about on the ghost story map about planning out your story. But one thing that's really important for writers when you're thinking of planning out a story is noticing how other stories go. Because actually, the more you read, the better you're going to write. And the more you write, the better you're going to read. Reading and writing actually help to strengthen each other. So one way that you could use your ghost story map this month is to actually read a story and then notice how the story goes. Because as you notice how the story goes, it's going to help you to read like a writer and think about how your stories might go. So in the Writer's Box this month, we actually have little bookmarks, just like encouraging you to think about reading like a writer. And of course, all of our awesome Halloween writing stuff. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at the ghost story map and read a story with you, and then we're going to plot it out. We're going to think about how the story goes. So when we're thinking about a story, all stories have a beginning, and then they have a main conflict. Conflict is just another way of saying the problem. Every story has to have a problem. If there's not a problem, it's going to be a boring story. So happy lives are fun to live, but they're boring to read about. You always have to have a problem. So once you establish what the problem is in your story, then you have rising action. Rising action is trying to solve the problem. What are we going to do to make the problem get better? And usually in a story, you have 1, 2, 3, like trying to solve the problem over and over until we get to the climax. The climax is the most exciting moment where the story is just building, and it's right before the problem is solved, or maybe the moment the problem is solved. It's pretty easy usually to find the climax because it's the moment we've all been waiting for. After the climax, we have falling action, which is wrapping things up, and an ending. So let's take our ghost story map and use it with this fun little story, Halloween story, The Big Pumpkin. This is by Erica Silverman. Once there was a witch who wanted to make pumpkin pie. So she planted a pumpkin seed. She weeded and watered, and after a while, a sprout poked through, and then a pumpkin grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew some more. I would say on our map, this is our beginning. We don't have a problem yet. We just have a nice little start. Soon Halloween was just hours away. The witch thought about pumpkin pie and bent down to take her pumpkin off the vine. Well, she pulled and she tugged and she pulled. First she pulled hard and then she pulled harder, but that pumpkin just sat. Drat, said the witch. Okay, what did we just find? I think we just found the conflict. There's the problem right there. She can't get the pumpkin out. So now we're just going to pause and look for a minute. So we know what the beginning was. We know the conflict or the problem. She can't get the pumpkin out. And now here's the rising action where she's going to try and solve the problem. Just then along came a ghost. Big pumpkin, said the ghost. It's big and it's mine, but it's stuck on the vine. And Halloween's just hours away, said the witch. And she kicked that pumpkin. I am bigger than you and stronger too, boasted the ghost. Let me try. Said the witch. But she thought about pumpkin pie and stepped aside. The ghost bent down to take the pumpkin off the vine. Well, he pulled and he tugged and he pulled. First he pulled hard, then he pulled harder. But that pumpkin just sat. Drat, said the ghost. Just then along came a vampire. Okay, now the vampire is going to try with the same result and say drat. And then the mummy's going to try with the same result and say drat. And then along comes a bat. So all of this is the rising action trying to solve the problem. Now it's kind of funny, isn't it? Is a bat going to be able to do what the ghost and the vampire and the mummy couldn't do? Well, actually, ready, set, pull, called the bat. The bat pulled the mummy pulled the vampire pulled the ghost pulled the witch, and the witch pulled the pumpkin. Well, they pulled and they tugged and they pulled. First they pulled hard, and then they pulled harder, and snap. Off came the pumpkin. Drat, said the witch. Whoosh, it flew and it flew. Thud, it landed on top of a hill. Thump, bump, thump, bump, thumpity thump. So here is what we've been waiting for, right? This is the climax. So now the rest of the book is going to be the falling action and the wrapping it up. Said the ghost. Can I have some more, said the witch. Couldn't eat another bite, said the vampire. So the falling action of the story, how the author's wrapping it up, is they're eating the pumpkin pie. And then at the very end, the witch says, drat, as she watched them all leave. Then she went right out and planted another pumpkin seed. So it's so fun as a writer to go through and think about what the author, Erica Silverman, was thinking and planning as she was planning out her Halloween story. And she goes all through the ghost story map, just like that. If there's different ways to write, and sometimes as a writer, you know exactly how you want your story to go. And if you do know, you know the beginning, the problem, the rising action, then go ahead and just plot it out. If you don't really know right now exactly how you want it to go, a great way to use this map would be to read stories and to notice how other authors do it. You can even model your story after another story that you read. Or another thing that we suggest in the writer's box this month is actually to use your sticker prompts that are included in the box and just use them as roller coaster riding and just go for it and discover and find out what your story is going to be. So this month, hope you have a lot of fun with the story map, a lot of fun planning out your ghost stories, and a lot of fun with Halloween writing. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.